We're gonna talk about one of the most controversial topics when it comes to flipping real estate that I get hammered on all the time. Is flipping properties morally wrong? Concerns arise when the strategy affects housing prices or when flippers exploit vulnerable homeowners. One reason why it might be morally wrong per people is that by you improving a neighborhood, you are making that neighborhood's value go up, and that is morally wrong. Or the way you bought it, and this could be probably one of the ways that it could be morally wrong. People who tell lies to home sellers. Now, we buy from home sellers all the time, and we tell them exactly what our plans are. Our plans is to buy your property, to fix it and sell it for a profit. We are very transparent with people. We don't tell them, we don't gloat. We don't say, hey, we're gonna make a ton of money on this property. You freaking really gave up the kitchen sink on this. We are trying to create a win-win situation for the people that we buy the properties from and for the people we sell the properties from, right? We're trying to give a turnkey product to those buyers. So the alternative to that is nobody fixes properties, no neighborhood's values improved, and properties that come back on the market in the condition that they were in bad shape on. Now, if we take that into the car business, when you go trade in your car, what do? They go and they vacuum it, they clean up the engine, they put new spark plugs on it, and they sell it on their dealership for more money by just cleaning it up. Same thing. People have been flipping things for years. So whether it's houses, whether it's this, whether it's baseball cards, whatever the hell it is, and then obviously when you buy something and you clean it up a little bit, you're not only going to be able to buy it low and put a little bit of money into it and get more money out of it, but there's nothing morally wrong about that, in my opinion. I'd love to know what yours is. Flipping can inflate property prices, potentially making homes less accessible for first-time buyers. The inflation can strain local housing markets and challenge long-term residents. Bullshit. So basically what they're saying is that our job as business people is to make it affordable for first-time home buyers. Well, the reality is that we don't control the economy. We control pieces of the economy in our local economy. It's not up to us. It's up to the government to increase incentives. It's up to our local politicians to create more housing opportunities for first-time home buyers, but it's not your job. Rapid buying and selling without understanding community needs can erode the sense of community and lead to feelings of alienation among long-term residents. Well, life goes on, my friends. When the grandma down the street who's lived in the property for 52 years dies and doesn't have any people to leave the property to, life is gonna go on, or that property is gonna be boarded up, broken into, and left for disrepair. So I'm sorry, but life goes on. House flipping can accelerate gentrification where low-value neighborhoods transform, attracting wealthier residents. This can displace long-standing residents due to rising costs. Gentrification can also lead to cultural displacement, loss of affordable housing, and increased property taxes, making it harder for long-time residents to stay. All of that is true. But again, let's be more concerned about things that we control. If you go and you flip a house and you improve a neighborhood and you make it profit, and then somebody else flips a property on that same street and they make it better, and then somebody else flips a property on that same street and they make it better, guess what? There is a high probability that the values in that market are gonna go up. That's a good thing. People want their property values up. What they don't want is their property taxes to go up. Maybe that's where the focus should be, is keeping people's property taxes low and deciding where they're spending their money versus worried about what a flipper is doing to a community, because a flipper is not doing anything to a community. A flipper is simply improving the community by buying properties. So exploitation of sellers and transparency concern. Some flippers target properties that are being foreclosed on or mislead sellers to buy at low prices. This can exploit homeowners, especially those with limited resources and education. Additionally, a lack of transparency about property conditions or history can lead to mistrust in transactions. So you gotta do good business. You gotta be straightforward with people. We always say to all of our students, to all of the people that we teach through our program that have made millions of dollars flipping homes, we always tell them to be transparent, to let people know that this is what you do. You do not need to be braggadocious. There is a proper way to do things. And yes, we do go after people that are losing their property to foreclosure, that their house is not listed. So there's two things that can happen there. The people can either lose their house to foreclosure, or they can sell it, or they can catch it up. A lot of times when people who are behind on foreclosure, they're never gonna catch it up. So they have a couple options on the table, right? Let's just go through them so we can see if this is morally right or wrong. Number one, they borrow money from somebody else and they catch up that payment, right? That back payment. That might put somebody else in a bad situation, but it might catch them up, and they're still probably gonna not be able to catch up with that other person. So that's number one. Number two, they can file a bankruptcy. They can file a bankruptcy and stop the foreclosure, but guess what that does? That blights their credit, that makes them unlendable and sometimes unhireable. The other thing that they could do is they could sell their property on the open market. A lot of times they've missed that opportunity and they don't have time to do that. And they've kind of buried their head in the sands and said, I'm okay with whatever happens. The next thing is that somebody's gonna buy that property directly from them. When I buy a property directly from a seller that is going through a foreclosure, they have not been foreclosed on, a lot of times we're not gonna have a lot of time. Most of these people are hiding out, they're embarrassed, they're scared. And so sometimes they're willing to take a haircut, and I've got proof beyond proof. I've got several people I've helped in their situations where money is less important to them at this stage of their life than it is closure or some sort of thing that needs to happen. I've dealt with people who have been beaten by their spouse and been forced to leave their property, right? They were going to lose it to foreclosure because they were forced out, their spouse took over that property. I've dealt with people who were murdered and that property went into foreclosure and it was a probate situation, right? To see the smiles on people's faces once they're actually dealing with somebody who's honest, trustworthy, and tells them, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and then does what they said they're going to do. You don't have to be unethical when you do it. You can be straightforward, you can have integrity, you can be transparent, and you can make a lot of money doing it. Quality of workmanship and pest management. You're always going to have issues with any sort of property that you buy on the market. You're always going to have problems. Like any home inspector is going to find errors with your property. So get a home inspection before you buy a property, whether it's flipped or not, and address those concerns. I'll give you an example right now. I just got an inspection on a home that I'm flipping right now that I'm actually going to lose money on. The buyer came back and asked for a bunch of stuff to be repaired. And these are things that we didn't even need to address, right? Reverse polarity on cert and lighting. We've got non-GFCI electrical outside. Well, these are all new things. The house is actually, according to when it was built, is in perfect condition. We did not update the electrical because we didn't touch the electrical. So there's no point in updating the electrical if you didn't touch it, because then you're gonna have to pull permits. So we didn't touch the electrical. Is GFCI a big deal on the outside? No, not for us and not for a lot of people. And so a lot of these rules, a lot of these regulations, a lot of these things that are required, zoning changes, building code changes, they're very complex. Whatever you do, make sure you get your property inspected, no matter if it's flipped home or otherwise. So craftsmanship, quality work, no, what you're actually doing is everything on here that should be a positive is turns into a negative. You're employing people to fix a house. Oh, that's a bad thing because they might do bad craftsmanship, or you might exploit the workers, or you might exploit the homeowner. No, you're actually fixing a house, you're putting people to work, and you're getting a property that was in bad shape back together. Good thing. Real estate wholesaling, that's the big no-no, right? And I do have some opinions about that. So real estate wholesaling, as somebody who has a real estate license and has sold real estate for a living for years and years and years, since 2006 to 2021-ish, you know, obviously I respect that profession, being somebody who's done it for years and years and years, but things change. So wholesaling is selling contracts to property. I think it's a good thing, and I think most realtors would not prospect those properties themselves. So wholesaling, I do not believe it should be outlawed. I do believe there should be some regulation. I do believe to become a wholesaler, you probably should have some sort of a license, because there are a lot of bad actors out there just because it is such the wild, wild west right now. You've got guys who are doing it in prison. In fact, we recently just ran into somebody who was trying to sell a property that they had deeded to themselves. It's a whole, you know what show. So my question to you is, do you think flipping is morally wrong? Or do you think I should be flipping houses versus my W-2 job? You know, the first house I flipped was in 2013. I made $25,000 on that property. I screwed everything up. I was scared. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I was worried. But since I flipped that house, I've done about 700 more house flips, and each time I learned something different. I've made a ton of failures, but the one thing that I'm super proud of is all of the students that I have taught not to make those mistakes in order to make the type of money that they want to make and changing their life by investing in real estate. And if that's you and you want to change your life, then I would suggest wholesaling, I would suggest flipping real estate, and I would suggest buying real estate, because it will change your life. It has changed my life, and it's going to change your life. So hope you enjoyed this video. We don't think flipping is morally wrong, and neither should you. We'll check out the next one. Peace.